This video is going to demonstrate how to create Revolve object number 2 from CAD problem set number 2. So what we have here is the finished model of what it's supposed to look like. So essentially this is a glass, a vessel, and this is the overall sketch that we need to create. And it does have quite a bit of detail. And there is an assigned material here. I'm guessing it's going to be glass, but always follow the specific text instructions, which here the material is going to be glass and the appearance is going to be clear. So we have a material and an appearance to assign as well. And to make sure that our vessel is relatively close and accurate to the example, we have a cubic inch volume here that we need to be within 5% of. So do your best to get the constraints and dimensions as close as possible, and that should be fine. All right, drawing this, there's one thing I want you to be aware of before we get started. It's that there are specific dimensions for the height of this. If you start drawing in a much smaller workspace, when you go to assign these dimensions, everything's going to kind of fall apart on you. So it's best to draw in a similar or close size to this. It doesn't have to be perfect, but get it as close as you can to get started. Some people may prefer to put points in areas where there's going to be dimensions, and that's okay. You just have to make sure that they are fully constrained before you're done, or that will be one of your issues. I'm going to do it a slightly different way where, let's see, I'm going to start a sketch here. Oh no. Let's start a sketch. I'm going to put my origin in the bottom left, just like it is here in the example. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit here so I can see some greater detail. Okay, now my overall height is just under 5 inches, but I'm going to worry about this bottom half to start. So at this point, I'm going to start with this straight line because I have a dimension here of about 2.5 inches. So going straight up because it's easier to start at the origin. I can see my little dimension size. It's 0.8 inches, 0.9. I could easily draw this even to scale at this size, but it's only going to be a 1/4 inch large. So what I want to do is zoom out with my mouse and get in the right ballpark. So as you can see now, I'm at about 2.5 inches. And this is going to make my life a lot easier later. I'm not going to worry about getting it perfect right now because I'm going to have to come back and assign dimensions anyways. I just want to make sure that those numbers that I'm seeing in the dimensions box are close. Okay, so I have that line. Now I actually could go ahead and dimension that right now, but I'm going to wait until I have it finished to do it because that's how I usually like to operate. Okay, this one on the bottom, I'm going to work counterclockwise at this point. And I'm just going to try and get things close, like I said. Okay, so there's my bottom line. I'm going to have a half circle here. And if I go down on my sheet here, I actually see some more zoomed in pictures of what I'm trying to achieve. So I went across here, I got close to that dimension. I did a half circle or very close to it. It's probably actually not exactly a half circle because this line comes off at an angle. And that's what this is telling you here. This construction line shows you what it would be like if it were perfectly horizontal, but the body actually has a slight angle. So it's imperative that you replicate that. Now, you don't have to get it exact before you put dimensions, but make sure that you don't allow it to put a horizontal, or that's going to be more work for you to go back and change that later. Okay, let's go to the next one. So just below that other point I put, and this is vertical or parallel with the existing. Okay, so that bottom part is done enough to go ahead and dimension. I can see the zoom in of the top part here. Now, if you look here, I have 1 arc, 2 arc on the outside. There is a cap of another nearly half circle there, and then 1 arc and 2 arc on the inside. So these are just compound arcs. So make sure you grab your arc tool, kind of replicate it as close as you can, but it's the dimensions that will really give it the correct size. So let's see here. Just try and maintain some proportionality. But the dimensions will do a lot of work to really get the correct size. All right. Now I can start putting in dimensions now, or I can start putting in constraints. There's not really a right or wrong answer. It's the answer that works for you. I'm going to go ahead and start putting in at least these dimensions on the left because those are very important. Okay, luckily I'm pretty close to that number, so there shouldn't be too much movement. And as you can see, it only moved a little bit. If it has to move a lot, sometimes, especially with arcs, it can cause some catastrophic problems. Okay, then I have this number, 2.5. Then I have a dimension from that center point to this point. And make sure you pull it out so you can assign the correct dimension there. Okay, and that's not exactly in the right spot. So let's see if we can pull that guy somewhere else. Now, there's some other issues going on here, so I'm going to back up. Now, this might be a case where it's better to put in maybe that tangent or those two tangents before you put in that dimension. And this is just something that you have to try and see and kind of play with as you go. Because things like this, there's so many things connected that you can have some problems really fast if things are not held together correctly with constraints. And anytime you want to see your constraint, you just come down to the bottom and hit that button, and it shows you everything that's currently in. Okay, let's see what else here. I have a dimension for this guy, 2.2. I have a dimension for this, 1.01. I'm sure this has also a dimension of 0.951. Okay, now things still look a little wonky because of the placement of the center points. But everything right now is still a work in progress, so little by little is how we do it. Okay, that definitely helped a little bit. Let's see here if we can get this guy back in. All right. Well, that's pretty close at this point, so let's just keep adding in and see what happens. Okay, I see this arc is huge. Let's get that guy down closer to where it's supposed to be. Yeah, that's better. And I do see two tangents there, so I got to put them on both sides of that arc. Okay, I got all my constraints there at the top, although there is, so this center point attached to this dimension should be directly above this guy. Now remember, the horizontal and vertical are essentially interchangeable. What you're looking for is the effect, not the exact constraint itself. Okay. All right, pretty close here. Now let's go ahead and move on down to the bottom and get our dimensions in there. 0.085. 0.205. Now we can put we're missing a tangent there. We are missing a tangent here. And I'm going to go ahead and put this construction line in here that begins at this point and goes horizontal to the axis there. And that has a perpendicular there. I see I'm missing my dimension on the bottom. It's one thing at a time and you'll get there, even though this is a little bit more of a complex problem than the first one we did. But that's how you learn. Okay, then we actually do have an angle here. So now the angle is between these two guys. So between the construction line and that angled line, and that is 176.97. And I have one dimension left that I need to find out. So look for purple. There's some purple. So let's see what's going on here. So I have a dimension to the outside, a dimension to the inside, and what's going on? Let's see, I must be missing one piece of information. Let's see if I can figure out what that is. So something in this arc is moving that shouldn't be. I know it's about in that ballpark where it's supposed to lie. I've got tangents on both of these. And you might be noticing that these points are in slightly different places than the example. And tangents, a lot of times you can move around. So that is not surprising per se. Double check my numbers here, make sure those are all correct. My constraints look good. I have both of those. I have vertical there. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. Looks like I have everything there. So when times come like this, you're going to have to do just a little bit of the problem solving on your own if there's something that you're not given that you need to complete the object. So at this point, I'm going to look and see, hey, both of these points are very close to being vertical. What happens if I put them vertical? Well, that actually worked out really well. Now let's go ahead and do our revolve. So it selects the only enclosed profile available. And we know our axis is going to be the middle because we're making a glass, and that's where it needs to be. And there it is. There's our vessel. Now we can go to the tools and assign the appearance of glass. And it had a clear appearance, so that is already correct. Now this view kind of looks slightly goofy. We can make it look a little bit more realistic by just changing the visual style to shaded. As you can see here, there's lots of options, which I encourage you to explore, but shaded kind of takes away those lines and makes it look a little bit more realistic. Now, if you go and you look at the left side, we've pretty much replicated that. I wouldn't say perfectly because I do see a couple issues, but it just kind of goes to show you with lines and arcs sometimes things can vary slightly and you can have a little bit of differences, but I think I'll go back and check, but it shows you how to make, this was a demo on how to make it. Not perfect, but got you pretty darn close. Hope you enjoyed the video.